सागर तेरे स्नेह में हम नैनों को अपने भिगोए हुए सांसों की तारों में ओ बाबा तेरी यादों के मोती पिरोए हुए ओ स्नेह सागर। सदा साथ मैं हूँ बच्चों तुम्हारे, यही बात अब भी तो दोहरा रहे हो, यही बात अब भी तो दोहरा रहे हो। एहसास के इस समंदर में हम तो जैसे कि मन को डुबोए हुए ओ स्नेह सागर। उठाकर धरा से जो धूल कण को मस्तक से अपने ऐसे लगाया, चमकने लगे हम सितारे से बनकर, अपने गुणों से इतना सजाया, अपने गुणों से इतना सजाया। बलिहार होके तेरे हार में हम तीरों के जैसे संजोए हुए ओ स्नेह सागर। तेरी खूबियों के ख्यालों में हम खोए खोए हुए ओ स्नेह सागर तेरे स्नेह में हम नैनों को अपने भिगोए हुए सांसों की तारों में ओ बाबा तेरी यादों के मोती पिरोए हुए ओ स्नेह सागर।
ओम शांति शांति ओम शांति शांति। अंतर मन में ज्योति जगा लो, होगा दूर अंधेरा। शिव का कर लो ध्यान, आ रहा पावन पुण्य सवेरा। से आए, अपने आप को जानो, राजयोग के द्वारा अपना परम पिता पहचानो। इसी राजपथ पर चलकर तुम पालो अपना बसेरा। परमात्मा को प्यारे, दिव्य गुणों को धारण करके योगी बनो दुलारे। ज्योति बिंदु ही तोड़ेगा ये माया मोह का घेरा। अंतर मन में ज्योति जगा लो, होगा दूर अंधेरा। ओम शांति, ओम शांति, ओम शांति।
Om Shanti. Good morning. And I've just been told that the family from Halifax has joined, so special welcome to the family from Halifax. So should I say happy Monday morning? Is it a happy Monday morning? So today Baba is really taking up the whole subject of purity. Baba does talk about something which he often doesn't really talk about, is the period between the end of the Silver Age and the beginning of the Copper Age. And today Baba's saying that when Bharat becomes impure and the kingdom of Ravan begins, the earth begins to shake. So a lot of upheaval, a lot of earthquakes and earth movements. And then Baba says that the golden palaces go beneath. It's an amazing time, isn't it? And it's one of those things that actually in the Brahman world sometimes we speculate a little bit about, but many years ago, one brother in Australia, he told me he had a dream of this time. And the way he described it to me was, this world of such a pure vibration. And as soon as the vibration of impurity, the vices, sorrow, it's almost like a shock to matter. It's like matter reacts and there's a massive upheaval in the world. And at that time, land masses, at the end of the cycle, land masses seem to go beneath the ocean, and at this time they seem to come up. And I think, as I've mentioned a few times, when we would meet Baba, the Australian family, Baba would always tell us that in the Golden Age, you'll go there for picnics. It's just a few picnic spots. It's quite a big landmass, and it's going to go beneath the water, but it will come up. And as I think I've mentioned, that in the heart of the country, there's seashells everywhere. And when we bought our retreat centre in the Blue Mountains, at 900 metres, just before, it's actually about 1,000 metres high, there's seashells everywhere. So it's a sort of a real indicator of that time. And we were discussing this once, how from Bharat, the Golden Age, where all together we start to disperse into other parts of the world. And I've read that in South America, Egypt, some of these cultures, they talk about people coming in flying machines at the beginning of, that began their world. And you wonder whether, in our Vimans, because the Vimans fly at phenomenal speeds too, that whether people go and relocate, start to populate different land masses in the world. It's not fact, but it's a fascinating time, isn't it? Really, just this change which happens. And Ramesh Bhai from Mumbai, he was saying that how did we, the population of the world start to move from Bharat into other places? And just like I was saying the other day, when you really spend a lot of time in Asia, really the whole of Asia was influenced from Bharat and the Hindu religion. But he felt that as families at the end of the Silver Age, beginning of Copper Age, rather than having just 2 children, the mandatory 2 children, some began to have 3. And this culture of the son gets the inheritance, so the second son would then go off and start life in a different place. That was his view. We can't say that's fact, but it's really fascinating, isn't it, how the whole world sort of fundamentally, even though the deities accessed the whole world perhaps, they were living in Bharat. And then really that spread that begins to happen, and Baba's sort of touching on it this morning. Yes. As you know, in the Brahmin family, there's a lot of ideas about these things. So the essence for today. Pardon? So the essence of the Moli. Sweet children, you are the true Raj Rishis and Raj Yogis, and you therefore definitely have to become pure in order to claim the kingdom. Question: paying attention to what makes you become worthy of the kingdom? Do we need to pay attention to? There's a shopping list, but every day, shopping list of things we have to pay attention to. Every day Baba picks up on something. Yes. If you pay full attention to the study, you receive the kingdom. Listen carefully to what the Father says and imbibe it well. When the Father speaks to you and you children listen to him, you will receive the kingdom. If while listening to him you yawn or nod off, or your intellect wanders around, you will lose the kingdom. Therefore, pay full attention to the study. And the song. We have to follow the path where we may fall, and we therefore have to be cautious. Yes, have to be careful on this journey. Om Shanti. The spiritual father explains to you spiritual children. So right at the beginning, Baba's setting up what he's going to talk about today. Today, Baba will explain to you children about Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga. You children know that whatever yoga people outside teach, it is Hatha Yoga because they are sannyasis who are renunciates of karma. In fact, householders should not study Hatha Yoga or renunciation of karma. Householders have a family path, different path. That is the path of isolation and a separate religion. Your religion is the deity religion. Those deities attain their kingdom by studying Raja Yoga. You are now Raj Rishis. Rishis are those who remain pure. You are now pure. If you don't remain pure, you cannot be called Rishis. You become pure in order to receive the kingdom. Those people don't become pure to attain a kingdom. You know that we had a pure kingdom in the pure world. It became the pure, worthy of worship, family path of the deities in Bharat 5,000 years ago. So right away, Baba's distinguishing the family path and the path of isolation. They have now become impure worshippers. How did they become impure? There is the account of 84 births. The father who is teaching you easy Raja Yoga also tells you the account of 84 births. What would those of the sannyas religion know about other religions? There is the ancient religion of the deities. That religion comes into existence later, meaning the sannyasi. Sannyasis cannot understand which took place in the past before their religion. You know there are many types of Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga and the path of devotion began in the Copper Age at the same time. This is now Raja Yoga. Those people have been studying Hatha Yoga for birth after birth. We have one young sister in Australia, and when at the age of 15 she was doing Hatha Yoga and now she just is one of those people who can bend her body into any imaginable. It's just incredible. It's just so deep in her. She's Australian. She's learned Sanskrit, and she's a complete, shall we say, loner. She loves to be with people, and she's good with people, but her sanskara is just to live on her own. It's just like such a powerful set of sanskaras from the sannyasi religion. I remember one other brother when we started in Melbourne. He told us when he was 10 or 11 years old, he dug a big hole underneath his parents' house and he lived down there. Like he dug a cave. I mean, our sanskaras are amazing, aren't they? They just emerge when we take rebirth. Anyone here feel they've been a bit of a sannyasi or a... I think we've all tried a little bit of it here and there. You study this Raja Yoga for just one birth. They take rebirth and have to study Hatha Yoga for birth after birth. You don't have to take rebirth in order to study Raja Yoga. Only at the confluence age do you study this Raja Yoga. Once you have received the kingdom and it is heaven, all the other religions disappear. You know, there's a scholar in Oxford who's made it his lifetime to study all the different religions and, the derivatives of the main ones, Christianity, Islam. He believes there's 4,500 practiced religions in our world. So many of them are forms of Christianity and Islam and Hinduism, etc. But 4,500 from one in the Golden Age. It's amazing. Sri Krishna is also called a Mahatma, a great soul. Mahatmas are pure. You two are now Mahatmas and Raj Rishis. A Mahatma means a pure, great soul. These things are not mentioned in the scriptures. The scriptures are created later. They sit and write them like stories. They sit and make up plays about the things that happened in the past. None of those things are true. The Father is now teaching you children in a practical way. They have then made up some history about this. They were the Yadavas, the Kauravas, and the Pandavas. They must definitely have existed in the Confluence Age. People have sat and made up a history of the Confluence Age. The festivals too belong to the Confluence Age. It's fascinating, isn't it? All the seeds of all the festivals come out of what we do now. The festival of Raksha Bandhan is based on purity. The memorial of that starts later. The Father makes everyone pure here and has them make a promise. Sikhs wear a steel bracelet, and that is a sign of purity. Hindus wear a sash or string, which is also a sign of purity. However, they don't remain pure. They have a Rakhi tied, but they don't understand the meaning of that. Previously, Brahmin priests used to tie Rakhis, but now a sister ties a Rakhi on her brother, and he gives her a gift of money. This fashion has now been created. So when did that change? When did it move from Brahmin priests to sisters tying on brothers? No one's sure here. In fact, it is a matter of purity. The Father says, children, lust is the greatest enemy. Those Brahmin priests don't explain in this way. The unlimited Father now says, children, promise that you will remain pure and never indulge in vice. You call out to the Father to come and purify the impure. No one calls out to him in the golden and silver ages. That is the kingdom of Rama. This is the kingdom of Ravan. The 5 vices don't exist in the kingdom of Rama. As are the king and queen, so the subjects. You children know that you are now claiming the kingdom of heaven from Baba. You definitely have to leave this hell. Baba has come to purify us and take us to heaven. So why should we not become pure? They have many different types of Hatha Yoga. Go and see the variety of Hatha Yoga that there are in the museum in Jaipur. Nothing is accomplished through that. They just continue to come down the ladder. The Father has explained that when Bharat becomes impure and the kingdom of Ravan begins, the earth begins to shake. All the golden palaces, etc., go down below. It isn't that the palaces were looted. Just the temples were looted and some of the golden jewelry was taken. So later on the temples were looted, but the palaces just go down. Once I was reading that, now they can go much deeper into the core of the earth And there was a group of scientists who sort of estimated there's so much gold down there. Their estimate was you could plate all the land masses of the world 0.5 meter deep. That's how much gold. Because in our mindset here, gold is such a scarcity, and a little ounce has so much value, but it's actually a plentiful thing, but it's deep. And so in this upheaval, the gold will emerge somehow. So just as the temples were looted and some of the gold and jewelry was taken, you are those who have the greatest interest in something you'll be surprised. You are the ones who have the greatest interest in jewelry. Anyone have any interest? I think when we hear these words now, we associate status and wealth and power and misuse of power. So sometimes, but in the Golden Age, it's absolute beauty. The stones have so much, it's just pure art. Jewelry is pure art, has no material value associated to it. As soon as you go to heaven, you wear jewelry and rule the kingdom. Those of other religions do not rule a kingdom as soon as they come. You are claiming your inheritance of the kingdom of heaven from the unlimited Father. The Father sits here and explains this. He doesn't recite the Gita to you. I did not speak everything that is written in the Gita. It was human beings who later made up that scripture from the elevated versions I spoke. Only you heard the things I said to you, and you then went and ruled the kingdom. This knowledge doesn't remain there. The Father sits here as the teacher and teaches you. The Father only explains in Hindi. Here, everyone speaks Hindi. Michael, what's your Hindi like these days? You're working on it. In fact, the ancient language is Hindi, not Sanskrit. The Sanskrit language emerged after Shankaracharya. Those who come later start their own language. It isn't that Baba spoke the Gita in the Sanskrit language, no. Guru Nanak has his own Granth, the scripture, the Granth. He established the Sikh religion, and people therefore believe him to be an incarnation. There are even kings in that religion, kings in the Sikh religion. There are no kingdoms amongst the sannyasis. Baba has explained that Buddha, Christ, etc. are at first householder souls. However, those who are impure householders cannot establish a religion. A pure soul entered each of them and established a religion. I always find that so fascinating how, in a sense, Buddha and Christ were Siddhartha and Jesus. And then those souls come. But what's interesting is, the Buddhists believe that Siddhartha went into the jungle for 6 years, and that's, preparing, and that's when the Buddha soul came. And even in the Christian religion, they say that Christ went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And a Christian was telling me that that meant a long time. It wasn't actually 40 days, it just meant, and that's when that pure soul came and began to teach. I remember when I first started and I heard all this, it made so much sense to me. It sort of made sense about the different religions and the prophets, etc. There are many other different religions. They come and establish their own small sects, etc. Oh, I thought that was traffic control. This too is shown in the picture of the tree. There is a lot of difference between Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga. These matters have to be understood. Those who can't understand these things continue to nod off and yawn all the time. You are receiving treasures here. This income is very great. You fill your aprons with jewels. You have to listen to this with your eyes open. If you continue to nod off, or your intellect continues to wander around outside, you cannot attain the kingdom. You are Raja Rishis who attain the kingdom. The Father and not Sri Krishna is establishing a kingdom. Sri Krishna receives the inheritance from the Father. Your Father is the incorporeal one from whom you are to receive the inheritance of the kingdom of the world. You become so wealthy. Only the one Father comes here and teaches you Raja Yoga. You can travel and tour around, eat and drink, but, what's the but? But you simply have to remember the Father. The wealthy definitely eat well. They eat the fruit of their income. You may eat malpuda. What is that? Anyway, you're welcome to eat it. Malpuda. And it says here, specially prepared for Bhog on Mama's Day. On Mama's Day, or just plain roti. If you don't like malpura, you can have plain roti. But remember the Father. You may eat anything. What do you have all the money for? Baba doesn't forbid you anything. Simply have yoga with the Father. There is no expense in establishing the kingdom. There is so much expenditure on those wars. There is so much expenditure on aeroplanes. When aeroplanes crash, they are totally destroyed. There is so much damage caused. The Father says, children, remember the Father while walking and moving around. Continue to spin the discus of self-realization. We have completed our 84 births. We are now going home. We will return
Try to take a
home
nap.
and come and rule that kingdom.
I don't know what I need. I don't.
You are actors. Those films last for 2 or 2.5 hours. The unlimited play
Probably need to eat more. Just had 2 pieces of toast. I don't really want any crepes.
Only human beings can understand this. This world is a forest of thorns. The biggest thorn is lust, because it causes sorrow from its beginning through its middle to the end. The second number, you know how Baba always talks about the hierarchy of vices, and they change all the time. The second number, thorn, is anger. Look at the signs of it, the Mahabharat war. When they become angry about something, they immediately start dropping bombs. They have now created such bombs, don't even ask. You know, once we did a program in Hiroshima. Exactly, they've built a peace center exactly where the bomb dropped in Hiroshima. And we did a public program there. But there's an exhibition, which is pretty horrific, you know, underneath this place. And what they say at the end of the exhibition is that they now have nuclear bombs 3,300 times bigger than the one that hit Hiroshima. Can you believe that? What is the mentality creating these things? So that's why Baba says they have now created such bombs, don't even ask. There is no battling, etc. in the Golden Age. The Mahabharata war has been shown at the Confluence Age. There is no mention of this war in any other scriptures. When you are there, you are the masters of the whole world. There cannot be any question of a war there. They have portrayed a war between the devils and the deities in the scriptures. However, what's wrong with that? The deities are non-violent. You become the masters of the world through the power of yoga.
You got lucky, babe.
This is the power of silence.
You
don't have
determined.
to say
That's how you got
anything.
me.
Through the power of remembrance, you
back into the
claim
fun, too.
the kingdom of the world from Baba. Look how much difference there is. Destruction takes place with the power of science. Through that very science, you will then see the happiness of the Golden Age. That's really fascinating, isn't it? It's the question of the intellect. If the intellect's tamo pradhan, it uses science to be destructive. When the intellect's sato pradhan, it uses science to give happiness. It's all about the intellect, isn't it? Pardon? And what you see. Yeah, your perception of everything. They invent things with science. They do that for happiness. They too will come and take this knowledge. Everyone comes to the exhibitions. There's a brother in Australia who's doing a PhD in hypersonics, and they're aircraft that fly many times the speed of sound. And he's doing a PhD. It's real technology that exists. Everyone comes to the exhibitions. As you make further progress, what will happen? Many things. Everyone will come. The sound of your power of silence will spread. You ask them, excuse me. And the sound of my coughing also spreads. The sound of your power of silence will spread, which is an interesting thing, like the sound means a vibration. You ask them who the God of the Gita is. No one else can ask such a question. You should also put up the picture at the place where you ask this question. Is the God of the Gita the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, or is it Sri Krishna, the one who takes the full 84 births? Only the Father makes you pure from impure. The Krishna soul takes 84 births and becomes ugly. The Father sits here and explains, you have taken 84 births. You do not know your own births. Actors should know how they take 84 births. The religion of the sannyasis is completely separate. Because the people of Bharat do not know their own religion, they continue to go into other religions. When someone receives wealth through the blessings of a guru, he stays with that guru. However, if he then goes bankrupt, so he takes on a guru, he makes a lot of money, but then and thinks this guru's helped me, and then he goes bankrupt, what happens? This is, they say it is the will of God. So they don't then reject their guru. When they have a son, they become very happy. But if the son dies after 10 or 12 days, they say, it's the will of God. It is not, Baba says, it is not in my hands to bring him back to life. Baba has seen many such examples. There are many of them like that. People have this incredible faith in gurus. The Father is sitting here and he tells you, children, sweetest children, become pure. Do you remember that when the great Mahabharat war took place, Draupadi called out, Baba, these devils are stripping us. Protect me from them. This is a matter of 5,000 years. Only because of this vice are innocent ones assaulted. Even some women are such that they cannot do without poison. They are named Supnaka and Putna. Supnaka. Those who harass others for vice are Kans, Jarasandha, Shishupal. You know, all of them, the usual suspects. Names of devils in the scriptures. All of them are to be destroyed. At this time it is the devilish kingdom of Ravan, and it will then be God's kingdom. You now know the whole cycle of how you take 84 births. You forget this when you indulge in vice. The faces of those who indulge in vice grow pale. They themselves understand this and feel, what have I done? The Father says, children, don't fall into that gutter of poison. It causes you sorrow from the beginning through the middle to the end. Don't get involved in that. Take an oath that you will never indulge in vice. God speaks, lust is the greatest enemy. In every picture, write this first: the ocean of knowledge, the purifier, the bestower of the knowledge of the Gita, God Shiva speaks. Then the name of Sri Krishna will be removed. The God of the Gita sits here and teaches us this. We are receiving this same knowledge now. God comes and establishes a new world, and this old world is then destroyed. There is the sacrificial fire of the knowledge of Rudra. It is really Shiv Baba. You wouldn't say Rudra Baba. In Bombay, they have the Badrinath temple, which means the Lord of Thorns. Who's been to that temple? What did I say? It says here, sorry, my eyesight is a little rough on this. Baburinath, it says. Baburinath, yeah. Babul means thorns. Why have they named him Baburinath? No one... No. It says here, Babu. Anyway, Baburinath. Anyway, I think we know what he means. No one understands this. The image is of Shiva. They have given him many names. Shiv Baba comes and changes the forest of thorns into the jungle of flowers. Here's your Baba, and his name is Shiva. The words are very clear. Salutations to the Supreme Soul Shiva, and salutations to the Brahmins who are to become deities. Just as a physical father would explain, so the Supreme Father, Supreme Soul sits here and explains in exactly the same way through this chariot. Children, don't defame the name of my clan. Don't do anything bad. This Baba also says, children, never indulge in vice. Unless you become pure, you will not be able to claim a high status in heaven. You are earning a very great income, whereas everyone else is losing everything. Although someone may have multi-millions and build huge palaces and spend hundreds of thousands of rupees, you understand that all of that is, Papa says today, a waste of time. None of it will be useful. Everything will be destroyed. They think that it will continue for 10 to 12,000 years. You children understand that death is just ahead of you, hanging over your heads. In just a short time, there will be earthquakes and everything will begin to shake. Countless people die in earthquakes. Destruction now has to take place. I was once in New Zealand giving an evening class in the old days when we had a gutty and there was an earthquake. And I was sitting on the gutty, the whole room was shaking like this. Went on for about 30 seconds, it stopped, and we just continued the class. You have had visions of the destruction and establishment. You will then see those again with your physical eyes. They make so much endeavor on the path of devotion, but no one can go to Vaikuntha, paradise, yet. There cannot be salvation without this knowledge. All of those are toys for the path of devotion. Acha. To you, sweetest, beloved, long-lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bapdada. The spiritual father says namaste to you, spiritual children, and the spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. The essence. Number one, don't perform any bad actions which would defame the name of the clan. Promise yourself that you will remain pure. 2, don't waste your time on money. Don't waste your time on money. In order to go to the garden of flowers, remove your thorns and the blessing. May you become constantly powerful by playing alokik games with the alokik toys and thereby remain unshakable and immovable. To experience obstacles of Maya in this alokik life is also an alokik game. Just as you are made to play in order to increase your physical strength, in the same way in this alokik age, consider adverse situations to be toys and play alokik games. Do not be afraid or nervous about them. Surrender yourself and all of your thoughts to Bapdada, and Maya will never then attack you. Every day at Amrit Vela, be a detached observer and decorate yourself with all the powers, and you will remain unshakable and immovable. The slogan: to listen to and relate worldly news is also to accumulate rubbish in yourself. And the Avyak signal, this month's theme: finish the seed of impurity and become completely clean, pure. Bhaktivedant's main order is to stay constantly in remembrance and to remain pure in your thoughts, words, and deeds. Not to have any impurity or uncleanliness even in your thoughts is to have complete purity. If your thoughts are touched by old impure sanskaras, or you have waste thoughts, or they come in your dreams, then this is not said to be complete purity. Therefore, put the first lesson of may you be pure and may you be yogi into practice. For only then will you become equal to the Father and claim a right to come close to the Father. Om Shanti. Good morning. So, is the Hindi class here? Not yet. 5 minutes, okay. So, would anyone like to share something from today's Murli that touched you? Anything special? Sorry?
Pay full attention to the study and be cautious.
Yeah. You know, once Daddy Genki said the greatest virtue of all virtues is to always be open to learning. Because, you know, after many years, subtly, even subconsciously, we think, I know all this. And yet, you know, how she was always open. I found even if you were traveling with her, she would always be saying, what's this? She wanted to learn about everything around her. Such a good sanskara, isn't it, to always want to learn. Anything else?
Baba's definition of Hatha Yoga. What is his definition of Hatha Yoga?
I think it's really just the interpretation in the physical world, because there's layers of yoga, as you know, there's Hatha Yoga and then Pranayama, and you build up ultimately to Raja Yoga, which is even in Patanjali's thing considered the highest form of yoga, which is the union of the soul with God. But it's almost like we understand Raja Yoga is, realizing who I am and absorbing my mind in Shiv Baba. But everything is interpreted in a physical way. So, all the physical exercises and a whole culture is built. It's a whole religious sort of way of life that is built around Hatha Yoga. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what they achieve, their physicality of what they can do with their bodies and this sort of thing, and all the sort of powers they receive. How they can bury themselves in the ground and somehow still survive. Yeah, they can do it. It's incredible, really, but it's not going to make you pure. This is fundamentally, Hatha Yoga will not make you pure. That was really fundamentally the essence of, because a lot of people believe that it will, following all these things, and it's going to cleanse, but it may cleanse you physically and temporarily, but not permanently and spiritually.
It's okay if I go.
Dan, go ahead.
You first. In today's Murli, Baba says that Buddha and Christ was first impure, and then they become the religious head as some pure soul entered. But as far as my knowledge says, Christ was never shown that he become impure or he has family or wife.
No, that's what Baba was saying, that the bodies they entered were in the family path. So Siddhartha was a prince in a kingdom in the south of Nepal. Then he had this pull to go and live in the jungle, and that's when the pure soul of Buddha came. Jesus was also a child in the family, but then he went out into the desert in his early 30s for, they say 40 days, 40 nights, but it was a long period, preparing himself, and that's when the pure soul of Christ came. And then the teachings were only for a short period of time. Christ was only 3 or 4 years, I think. It wasn't a long time. I'm certainly not an expert on Christianity. But I was once in Israel, in Jerusalem, at Christmas time. And it was really amazing to be there, because there's a church there called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which when Christ was crucified, they left his body in this place, and they've now built a church around it. And, even in the Bible, Baba said, there's only some things that are remembered accurately, but it's said that when Jesus was on the cross, he said, "Oh God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why are you not helping me?" Because it was the soul of Jesus that was crucified, because the soul of Christ, even Baba mentions this, is pure, couldn't suffer. So the soul of Christ already left before the crucifixion. And so my understanding is that Christ never really understood, or Jesus never really understood there was another soul coming through him. He didn't have clarity. Even we know it took Brahma Baba some time to realize what this influence was in him, until Shiv Baba really started to speak through his mouth and introduced himself. But I don't think the prophet souls ever really understood what was the power coming through them. And so when that power left, and there was Christ Jesus was on the cross, so to speak. Yeah, forgive them for they know not what they do. That's right, yeah.
Om Shanti. The idea of these gurus and these people who become very, very well known and famous, they often are very pure in their practice, but then when they become very famous, they become so degraded and corrupted that they really fall apart. You know, they begin to act in ways that are completely and totally against all of the teachings that they've been given. And I just always kind of laugh when I hear a story about another guru falling down, and think that they just really don't understand how valuable this purity is and what they don't know.
Didi Manmohini. Who met Didi Manmohini? Just a few of us here. Didi Manmohini once said that what was the difference between BKs and the gurus? Because she said there were still some very pure gurus. And she said the main difference is that they accept the praise their followers give them, because Baba trains us. We may do that, but Baba trains us. It's all his praise, and not to accept for ourselves, because that's when you get trapped in your own name and form and your own sort of story. And I remember we were in Melbourne in the early 1980s, and there was a brother called Harold in San Francisco. Who remembers Harold? He was such a great soul, and he was quite a well-known psychologist in America. And he said that his association had done a study in NRM's, New Religious Movements, of which the Brahma Kumaris was considered one. And these new religious movements can be Hindu-based, Christian, Buddhist, Jewish, whatever. And he asked this question to Daddyji. He said, Daddyji, when Brahma Baba died, why didn't the whole organization fall apart? And why has the Brahma Kumaris continued to get stronger? because their research into 70 organizations showed that there's this sort of whole story of new religions. They have a charismatic leader and a few followers come, a small number, but they're very committed to their tradition and what they do. And after 5 to 8 years, they attract more and more people. Suddenly they grow a lot. And with growth comes money. And he said, absolutely, that was the point that the corruption begins within the organizations. And he said most of them after that start to, they still grow a bit because they have more money to spread their message, and then the in-house fighting, and between 16 and 25 years, almost all of them collapsed completely. And he said to Dadiji, well, why didn't the Brahma Kumaris collapse? And her answer was, she said that when she has like a big decision to make, she would consult all the other senior daddies and daddis. And Dadiji was amazing like that, because imagine the authority of Brahma Baba. I mean, he had absolute authority, Shiv Baba coming through him. And everyone respected whatever Baba said we will do. But Dadiji was like in her early 40s when she took over. Just imagine, she took over the whole organization. And so she would consult, and what she said was, even if 75% say to me, yes, go ahead, Daddy, she would still wait for those 25% who weren't sure. So in a way, she was building unity. She was carrying everyone forward together. And she said to him, that's how we've stayed together. But also, we have really maintained the principles that Shiv Baba, taught through Brahma Baba, on purity especially, which this whole Murli was about. But it was really interesting how Harold explained to her how the life cycle of these NRMs is usually like 15 to 25 years, 16 to 25 years, and then they completely fall apart. And yet Baba's organization keeps growing and keeps growing. Yeah. So, shall we have a minute and share a few thoughts? Julia? Maybe if you speak on the microphone, if it's okay.
Om Shanti. I also think when Baba always cautions us that lust is the greatest enemy, because I think what happens when people, whether they be leaders, religious leaders or charismatic leaders or actors or anything, when they start to become well known and they start to be praised and adored in front, that energy that comes in front of them, even though they may have had very good intentions to begin with or have a purity, that power of that adoration is strong. And I think a lot of people, besides money, this kind of this praise and this lust coming towards them all the time can make them go off, and become weaker and accept the praise. And so when Baba says lust is the greatest enemy, and do not let your stage be influenced by praise or defamation. And I think this is one of his main teachings that he's always speaking to us about. And I think this has helped keep the level of purity in the Brahma Kumaris, even though, we're not perfect by any means, but certainly it's kept the organization together.
Well, in the renunciation, Murli's Baba differentiated great renunciates to the greatest renunciates. And the great renunciates, Baba said, have conquered the household. They've become detached from their physical relationships. And they've even conquered the body. They really have become soul conscious. But they haven't conquered the household of service. So when they go out and teach and people praise them, we're influenced by that praise, and we start to, even Baba said, think that, I'm a special teacher, and Baba was saying the greatest renunciates even let go that thought too. that really it's Baba who's responsible, it's Baba who's made me this, I'm just an instrument of Baba. So it's a trap, isn't it? I mean, in this life, it's like there's a trap at every level. And you sort of get trapped in it until you have, and then you're not very happy. And then you have to understand what it is within me that's trapped me at this level to go to that point where, you know, when we look at the daddies, they're so great and yet absolutely humble at the same time. It's always, if you ask Daddy Prakashmani, if you said, Daddy Ji, we want you to come and visit Peace Village, Daddy Ji will say, well, if Baba gives Daddy Ji permission, Daddy Ji will come. She talked about herself in the third person. It's almost like her role is just a role. You know, she didn't really identify because the culture of body consciousness, we are so identified with our role. And that's when someone criticizes my role or wants my role, all sorts of emotions and upheaval. Because I think we've identified for half a cycle of what we do rather than who I am. And that's why when change comes, it's so challenging for us because I've identified that this is who I am. You know, even running a center or being responsible for something, and change is very threatening to a temporary identity which I've created in myself. I mean, I really love the way Baba just takes us. You get to a point and you're sort of going quite well, and then you have to go, there's another level, and you settle in happily there, and then there's another level. It's great though, isn't it? I mean, Baba is such a great teacher in that way. And I really, this morning, Baba was talking about purity. And I find it fascinating. If you go to any spiritual gathering, they will all talk about peace, love, happiness. But the only place that talks about purity is here, really. And I remember once Avyak Bab-Dada saying, how to come closer to Baba. I mean, it's probably the main question we all have in our heart, how to come closer to Baba. And Baba said, it's on the basis of purity that you feel extremely close to Baba, firstly. Secondly, in front of Baba, so at a little distance. Or thirdly, at a distance from Baba. And sometimes I've had the thought, you know, Baba is eternally pure. So if I want to come close to Baba, what do I have to do? I have to upgrade the quality of my purity. And I think when we come to Baba, for an old soul, an 84th birth soul, as soon as you hear about purity, you know it's the truth. You know it's right. And the attraction to Baba is his purity. Because embedded in that purity is innocence and honesty and absolute truth and a whole rainbow of qualities embedded in that purity. And my own experience is that, you know, when you feel pure, you feel clean on all levels. It's not just celibacy really, but mentally, emotionally. You feel really comfortable with who you are. But if there's some impurity in there, even if it's a strong dislike of somebody or whatever it may be, there's a discomfort. Because it's not just, I think for an old soul, it's not just impurity. It's like I'm going against my truth. Because in a way, purity and truth are really like a brother and sister. And one sister in Australia once did research into all the Morleys. And she told me that from her research, the main subject Baba talks about is love, and number 2 is purity. And once, many years ago, I decided that I had to really research purity, you know, what is it deeply, what does it really mean? And I got out all the Avyak Morleys especially that Baba spoke. The statements Baba makes are incredible. That purity is the real method for self-respect. It is so true. You know, if I'm doing actions against my truth, deep down it damages my relationship with me. I don't feel comfortable. You know, I'm gossiping or putting people down or doing something. I observe that. So I don't feel comfortable with who I am. Purity is the real method for self-respect. What does Baba say? Purity is the mother of peace and happiness. And purity is the method for spiritual power. And Baba gave the example in one of the mulis that how did the prophets establish their religion? It was their purity, because they had so much opposition, almost all of them, because they went right against the mainstream of that society at that time, just like we are now. And why, there's a lot of opposition sometimes to what we are following as well. And Baba said something like, just as the definition of the law of karma is so deep, so is the definition of purity. And Baba said, when you go through the day, when you're going through the day and a little wave of sadness just floats through your mind, a little bit of sorrow, Baba said that's a gross or subtle form of my impurity. And Baba then said, when a soul is pure, even if it's insulted to its face, it will not feel it. Even if someone comes right in your face, says, wow, 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 you won't even have any, that's the power of purity. And to me, purity is a state of being when all aspects of my life are based on truth. Truth is the seed, actually. And when truth flows into my thoughts, flows into my feelings, so it flows into my behavior, flows into my attitude, flows into my relationships, it becomes purity. And in a way, if I want to really increase my purity, because I think it's a question we all have, we are pure souls we're following, but we all want to upgrade the quality. I think it's like when I embed truths into the core of my being, that will begin to flow into each part of my life. To me, the principal truth that draws out the original purity is to have all relationships with one Shiv Baba. To me, that is the most powerful point of spiritual knowledge, and that is the real Raja Yoga. And we once asked Daddy Prakashmani why she was made the instrument of the yajna. And she said right from the beginning, I had all relationships with one Baba. And that's really why, Baba, I think it wins Baba's trust. So that first seed, it's almost like sow that seed, all relationships with one Baba. The second, I believe, that's really going to draw out, because the nature of purity is sitting in our memory track. All of us have the blueprint of total purity in me now from the golden and silver age. It's just sitting, and it has to be drawn out, all relationships with one Shiv Baba. The second, I feel, is this a normal siren or something? It is it? Okay. The second is really, I wouldn't say following Srimad, it's living. It's like I don't follow Srimad, it's who I am. These practices, these behaviors become my natural nature. I never think of Srimad as rules and regulations. To me, Srimad is like a deep code of truth, that's going to heal and transform the soul. The third truth, I believe, that really draws out the purity in the soul is benevolence. And the more I go on in my Brahman life, I feel that as the soul becomes cleaner and cleaner and more pure, the natural response to everything is benevolence. And really, I feel that what holds us back in purity is reactions to people, judgments of people, memories of people, relationships, and we store so much of that, and it doesn't. I honestly believe you can get to a certain part in your Brahman life and you feel stuck. You're a Brahman, you have deep faith in Baba, you love Baba, you follow Srimat, you do service, we feel a bit stuck. The main reason is I get stuck on people's defects, and I can't liberate myself from getting caught in what's wrong. Whereas my experience with all the daddies is that they just became, so loving to everybody, whoever they are. And when I get stuck in that gravity of this one's like this one's like this has happened, this didn't happen, I feel I get stuck in my spiritual journey. And it's almost like that when I sow those seeds of truth in me, that purity really begins to flow into each part of my life. And to me, impurity is about influence. And fundamentally, the more I'm influenced by another person's behavior, their facial expression, their vibration, a situation, if it keeps impacting my emotions, that's my impurity. And this is, I think, a Jnani soul will take 100% responsibility. Yes, the behavior was wrong. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. But if I let it impact me, that's absolutely 100% my decision to do that. And if I have the courage to accept that, then I can start to transform myself and really, step more onto the path of purity. And when you really look at the cycle, as I said, we have the blueprint of absolute purity sitting in us now. And when we come to the Copper Age and we start to desire, the law says, as I desire, whatever I desire will influence me. So if I desire you to love me, if you love me, it's great, I'm fine, I'm happy. But if you don't, I get upset, I get disappointed. By the end of the cycle, everything impacts my inner world. Every tiny thing sometimes can impact. That's my impurity. And I mean, have you ever wondered how sensitive you could be? Have you ever thought sometimes one word of a person could knock you over for weeks, or a facial expression of one of the seniors or something, you go. And I've heard people say, oh, I went to say hello to Daddy and she looked at me like this, and they're in shock for weeks. We've lost our spiritual power, and in a sense, it's purity that takes it back. But one muli I really loved, which I have, was when Baba said the reason you become defeated in purity is that when you get impressed by somebody's personality, their virtues, or whatever. And Baba said clearly, to be impressed is to be deceived. And to be deceived is to take sorrow. And then Baba went on, and he started to say how sometimes in the Brahmin family we think, oh, this one gives me a lot of love. Oh, I love the knowledge this one speaks. This one is their classes are just the best, or this one is so virtuous, or this one is so sweet. And you think, shouldn't we be seeing virtue? But what Baba's saying, subtly you put an individual on a pedestal. This is our guru sanskaras, they're so deep. And what is the result? It's like a human being comes into your vision and subtly Baba goes out of your vision, really. And I feel the culture of today is, everyone's on YouTube, even all the great Brahmins, and we've got to watch this, this one's great. And we should appreciate everyone. But if I start to sort of, this one, I just want to listen to this one's talks, this one's classes, this one, I feel there's a little bit of the old sanskara of putting a human being on a pedestal, because we know, and Baba says, as much as you get impressed with one, you'll get a bit disgusted by others. As much as you go that way and put someone on a pedestal, as much as you will sort of get, you go through this like-dislike sort of fluctuation. And it's a very, very subtle thing, I think, because we should appreciate everybody, shouldn't we? but not be impressed by anybody. It's such a fine line. And it's something really just to, check in myself. Even with the seniors, that love and respect is so important. But if I get impressed, we forget that who made them like that. And this is, in this Morley, Baba kept saying, whoever is special, who made them special? It's always Baba. And this life is like to see Baba and appreciate everybody, but not put anyone up on that pedestal because we'll get influenced in that way. And so Baba was really saying that we get defeated in purity by becoming impressed by others. And I also feel that another reason that sometimes we don't feel the purity really develops as it should is we still identify with my story of this life. All of us have a story before we come in Gyan, and even within Gyan too. And it's sort of a part of my identity. This happened to me, people have done this to me, people have said this to me, this wasn't right. And this whole story sits in my memory track. And even though I'm a Brahmin, I sort of identify with this body-conscious story. And I think that holds me back too, because Baba's given me a new story. You're a deity soul, you're a pure soul. And actually to identify with that story. He even says this is a new life. This is a new birth. And what happened in that birth before I took birth as a soul to Shiv Baba, it's a past birth. But often, and it's not to suppress it, it's actually to resolve this and not identify. Because sometimes I think the story of the past is one of our most powerful attachments. We're attached and we identify. And even sometimes, even within Brahman life, when we feel we've been treated in a way or this, and we hold on to that, it actually stops me progressing. Yes, sometimes we are treated inappropriately. It's a fact. It's not that it's not true. But if I keep identifying to it and holding on to it, it's like I hold back. And I get stuck in this negative thinking or impure thinking. And yet Baba wants me to keep moving forward. And I can remember thinking that I feel ultimately it's almost like we have to fall in love with purity. It's not enough just to follow it, because it's purity that's going to heal me so deeply. It's purity that's really going to heal the soul. And when I really love the concept of being clean, of being light, of being free, they're all aspects of purity. That's when purity is like become such a power within my life. Because, all of us go through that tug of war, don't we? Baba tells me to be pure. In my intellect, I want to be pure. My sanskaras want you to be impure. And that battle will happen. But when you really fall in love with purity and you realize deeply the attainment when the soul is pure, there's no greater sense of attainment of peace, love, and happiness internally than I value purity so deeply. But I don't have to be moralistic about it, because religions are very moralistic about purity, I just think it's a natural way of life that will make me happy. But I don't have to be very religious and judgmental, Oh, look at you, look at your behavior, it's not good. Sometimes that moralistic approach is really not a spiritual approach. It's a very religious approach to things. And sometimes we bring our religious sort of side into this Brahman family as well. Anyway, I'm rambling on. It's past our time. So, don't know whether anyone wants to say something or we should finish up.
I'm always struck when Baba refers to challenges as toys, and in this Murli he talks about alokic toys.
Alokic thoughts, was it?
No, toys.
Toys, yes.
And I think just what you were talking about is that even the challenges that we face have to be seen as toys, not as serious, where we become attached to the obstacles we've overcome.
Yeah.
So that idea of playing and toys, I think is partly a reminder to not get attached to even the journey.
It's so true, isn't it? Because sometimes we have a problem, we become incredibly serious about it and intense. And then this little problem, we just grow in my head, and it's like a big monster that just sort of, and in my mind, it's an absolute reality. And this is a form of impurity, isn't it? And I remember Dadiji once, when she came to Australia in 1977, I can still remember a class she gave. She said the whole Ramayana, the scriptures, about two vices, jealousy and imagination. And she was just saying how these are the vices of Brahmins, jealousy and imagination, where we just grow something in my head. And it's a real form of impurity, isn't it? When I'm pure, I see the reality. But when there's impurity, I keep building and imagining there's a whole conspiracy happening behind this. You know, everyone's involved in the conspiracy thinking about me, you know. But, and they're really like toys, you know. Baba sometimes refers to them as paper tigers. Yeah, and it's so true, you know, Maya, we use that word, but to really conquer Maya is not a small thing. Where I have I look through Baba's filter and I have a perception, and I don't allow the problem to overtake me, and I grow it and feed it, and before I know it, it seems like the biggest issue in the world, I'm convinced, and yet I've grown it. Who has had the experience, you've grown a big problem in your head, and then you talk to somebody, and it all comes back into perspective. Just speaking it and somebody not really seeing the problem like you see, it just brings it back and think, oh my God, where did that take me? I just went on this whole tour in my head, and sometimes it'll go on for weeks and months. This sort of imagination is really a big vice, you know. You see a few people in the corner talking. Maybe they're talking about me. I mean, paranoia and all the collection of rubbish, of impurity that really makes us so unhappy, you know, these sorts of things. And jealousy, that's a fascinating one, really. I feel most of us don't realize when we're under the influence of jealousy. And I think jealousy is fundamental to most conflict. It's a part of most conflict, actually. You know, once someone told me that jealousy, I'm just trying to remember in my mind again. Jealousy is like a state of being where I lose something, where I think I'm losing something I value. So I value a relationship, and we're close, and a third party comes along and threatens that relationship. So I take it as a threat, and before I know it, I'm seeing that person as a problem, and I oppose them. And all they've done is just come along. Or I have a responsibility, and a party comes along who's intelligent, clever, capable, and it threatens something I value. And so this whole story starts to grow inside my head about that other person. First, I feel threatened, and then I oppose, and then I lose trust. And by the end of it, whatever this person does, I read something into it. And I actually once saw Baba meet a group from a centre in India. And this group came to talk to Baba about their teacher. They actually went to Baba saying that she's no good. I've never seen Baba so strong. You know, Baba was so strict with them. You've all talked to each other, you've all convinced yourself that she's like this and like, it's, you know, Baba was really strict, and they'd had all this gossip and then sort of talked to each other and convinced each other about something, about this person, you know. But I think, you know, jealousy is, I feel whenever you hear anyone's praise or someone saying, this person is so good, this person, and there's a little, the tiniest thing inside that says, what about me? You know, aren't I good also? However, I'd say that's the seed of some sort of jealousy, and I really feel jealousy is a big thing. Once I remember at the NCCC, once we were there, and Daddy Janki said, jealousy is the seed of all problems. And I remember thinking, really, Daddy, is it the seed of all problems? And really, when I began to think, I feel so much of the stuff of problems in relationships, a lot of it, not all, but a lot of the seeds is jealousy. And it is. Yeah, it's ego, it's insecurity, it's lack of self-respect fundamentally, you know. And it goes to the heart of my Brahman life in a way, you know. If I feel jealous of someone in a relationship, it's showing that my relationship with Baba is still lacking in some way, you know. I'm not seeking all my love and affection from Baba, I'm still seeking it from people. There's so many seeds, but it's an interesting thing to churn, because in the Christian religion there's the 7 deadly sins. It's not just the 5 vices. They add sloth, it's a great word, isn't it? Sloth, laziness, and jealousy. So they're the 7 deadly sins in the Christian religion. It's one of the main sins in the Christian religion.
Brother, this conversation has made me realize in some ways that righteousness is when purity goes wrong. You seek purity.
Yeah.
And when you attach to it and jealousy comes in, you become righteous.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're the only one who has purity.
Yeah. And that righteousness, we get on that moral high horse, you know, and moralistic. You know, we can become so moralistic about the world, about others. Even in the Brahmin family, we become very moralistic, can become very moralistic about how people should be. Okay, I have a feeling I should finish. So, shall we just have a few minutes and then